Please comment where you are watching in the world. I'm a student, broke and bored. Free evening, decent-looking lad, 5-minute Uber away. I told my flatmate where I was going, screenshotted his profile, did the standard safety drill. I'm not an idiot, or at least I didn't feel like one then. Saturday evening came. I wore jeans and a hoodie, nothing mad. When I got out the Uber, the building looked like every other new build. Glass entrance, badly placed trees and square planners, video intercom. But the whole place was quiet. Too quiet. He came out to meet me instead of buzzing me in. He looked exactly like his pictures. He smiled, but it was more polite than happy. "All right," he said. "You found it okay?" "Yeah, sound," I said, putting on that fake confidence. "Dead quiet though, innit?" "New build," he shrugged. "No one's really moved in yet." He held the door open, and we walked into this echoey lobby that smelled like paint and cheap air freshener. In the lift, he stood just slightly too close. Not obvious, just enough that I could feel his jacket brushing my arm every time it jolted. He pressed the top floor. The button light looked like it had never been touched. "Top floor's best," he said. "Good view of the water." When we stepped out, the corridor lights flicked on with those motion sensors. The walls were that ugly developer white. His flat was at the end of the corridor. No welcome mat, no door number plate yet. Just a white door that looked like all the others. He unlocked it, then once we were inside, he did something that made my skin prickle. He shut it quietly and turned the lock once, then twice, then slid the chain across. "Just for privacy," he said, catching my look. "You never know who's nosy, do you?" "Yeah, sure," I said, but my stomach did this little flip. Proper weird, that. The flat was tidy. Too tidy. Minimal furniture, all gray and white. Sofa, coffee table, TV on the wall. No picture frames. No shoes by the door. No coats on hooks. Just one single photo on a shelf. A dog, some kind of spaniel, sat in front of a Christmas tree. "Nice place," I said, "'cause what else do you say?" "Company sorted it," he said. "Temporary. I'm not here long." He flicked on the lights, and they were that bright, cold kind, the ones that make everything look like a dentist's waiting room. No lamps, no warm bulbs. I instantly felt exposed. He offered me water, then a beer. I said water, 'cause my brain was suddenly in safety mode. I sat on the sofa, and it didn't even creak. Felt like no one had properly sat there before. He chatted fine at first. Work, random stories from sites, lads falling out over stupid stuff, living near the canal. His voice was low, steady. But he never really asked me anything. He kept his eyes on me in this way that wasn't flirty, just assessing. There was a door just off the kitchen. A small one. Storage cupboard size. The white paint around the bottom edge had this faint mark, like something heavy had been dragged over the threshold. And on the laminate floor just in front of it, there was a tiny dark stain. Not massive, not a horror film puddle. Just a little patch. I tried not to stare, but my eyes kept pulling back to it. He must have noticed because he said a bit too quickly, "They messed up the pipes when they built it. Had a leak." Proper cowboys, these developers. He didn't sound angry about it, just rehearsed. We talked a bit more. I tried to relax. Told myself I was being dramatic. But then he got up suddenly, no warning, and started moving stuff. He dragged the coffee table to the corner, legs squealing on the laminate. Picked up a chair from the dining bit and moved it closer to the door. His breathing got heavier, even though it wasn't exactly a workout. "What you doing?" I tried to keep it light. "Just like a bit of space when people are around," he said. No smile. No joke in his voice. Just flat. He walked over to the main light and turned it off. The room dropped from stark bright to this weird half-dark, lit only by a small lamp near the telly. Shadows stretched along the walls, making the corners look deeper than they were. My heart started going proper fast. Swear down, every instinct was like, nah. I stood up slowly, pretending to pat my pockets. "I'm just gonna grab my phone from my bag," I said, even though it was already in my hoodie pocket. I just needed an excuse to move. He watched me. Just watched. His eyes followed every step, no blinking. "You all right?" he asked. "Yeah," I lied, trying to sound bored. "Just my mum'll kick off if I don't text her back." He snorted a little at that, but didn't say anything. As I walked past the kitchen, I heard it. Not loud. Just a faint thump. Like something shifting behind that storage cupboard door. Could have been pipes, yeah. Could have been the building settling. But it sounded contained. Like something moving in a small space and hitting a wall. The hairs on my arms stood up. I glanced at the door and noticed something I hadn't before. Along the edge of the frame, just inside, there was a strip of foam. Soundproofing foam. Not loads. Just enough to make the door close softer. I forced my eyes away and pretended I hadn't seen it. "Bathroom's that way if you need it," he said suddenly, nodding down the little corridor. His voice had changed. Clipped. Less friendly. "Yeah, sound," I said. "I'll just nip Lou, actually." "That all right?" He stared for half a beat too long, then nodded. "Don't be long." I walked down the corridor, past the bathroom, past what I assumed was the bedroom. The doors were all slightly ajar. I could smell that same damp concrete, stronger here. In the bathroom, everything was spotless. Toothbrush, razor, one towel. No clutter. No spare products. Like a show home. I locked the bathroom door and just stood there, breathing. My hands were shaking. My brain was running through options. Leave, make excuse, scream, message someone. I pulled my phone out and opened WhatsApp, thumb hovering over my flatmate's name. Then I glanced up at the ceiling. Tiny round dot. Smoke alarm. With a little red light and a tiny, almost invisible black pinhole next to it. Camera. My chest tightened so hard I thought I was going to be sick. I shoved my phone back in my pocket, flushed the empty toilet for effect, ran the tap, then unlocked the door. He was standing in the corridor, a bit too close. Not blocking me fully, but enough that I'd have to brush past him. "All good?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Actually, I'm gonna shoot. Forgot I promised my mate I'd ring her about some assignment thing. She'll kill me if I don't." His jaw twitched. Just a little. The first proper crack in his calm. "You only just got here." "I know," I said, and forced a laugh. "Proper dead timing, innit? I'll come round again if you want. Just tonight's a bit stress." Silence. I could hear the canal outside, faint through the glass. A distant train. My heart. Then he did this weird half-smile. "You students, man. No sense of time." He stepped aside. "Only just." I slipped past, walking calmly, every muscle screaming to sprint. When I got to the door, I realized the chain was still on. My fingers fumbled it like an idiot. He watched. Still quiet. I finally got it free, turned the lock once, twice, opened the door. The corridor outside looked like heaven. Ugly white walls and all. "Text me when you get home," he said. "Yeah," I lied. "Course." I walked to the lift. Didn't look back till the doors shut. As they closed, I swear I saw his face shift. The smile dropped. Just blank. Like a mask being taken off. She messaged me at 0:07, just as I was deciding between sleep and another episode of something stupid. "Você é o cara que sempre parece endidiado na Velvet Tap, no?" I'd been to the Velvet Tap a few times. That little bar near Republica, red neon, sticky floor, caipirinha that could dissolve your organs. I didn't remember her, but her photos were very hot bartender that ruins lives. Tattoos, black hoodie with the bar logo, smudged eyeliner, that bored but dangerous smile. We talked about drunk gringos, guys who tip with phone numbers, and women who cry in the bathroom over men named Bruno. "I'm closing tonight," she said. "Staff hang depoy. Drinks on me. Side door meia-noite. Melhor que date com mesa de plástico." Meeting a stranger in a locked bar at midnight should have been a red flag. Instead, my brain went, free drinks and hot girl in hoodie, and apparently that was enough. Rua do Arush was half asleep when I got there. The front of the bar was dark, shutter halfway down, neon sign off. Around the corner, the alley was a postcard of Sao Paulo at night. Graffiti on every brick, a buzzing fluorescent tube, the faint thump of funk from somewhere down the block. The side door cracked open before I knocked. One brown eye, then all of her. "Entra mano," she said, grinning. "Antes que alguém peca mais uma brama." Inside, the smell hit, disinfectant, old beer, a hint of citrus like someone had fought a losing battle with limes. The main bar looked weird without people. Chairs upside down on tables, floor half dry, bar stools lined up like soldiers. She hopped behind the bar in one smooth move. "Cerveja? Caipirinha? Agua pra fazer de conta que você é saudável." "Beer's fine," I said. She popped the cap with the edge of the counter like she was mad at it and slid the bottle to me. "So," she said, leaning on the bar, tattoos catching the light. "What's your deal? Besides looking like you overthink your food orders." We talked. Work, exes, why Tinder men love photos with fish. Every story she told about the bar got more ridiculous. A guy who tried to pay an exposure. A couple literally breaking up mid-round of shots. A woman who vomited into her handbag and then still tried to use it. She made jokes that were just this side of filthy. "Bar is like sex, you know. Everyone thinks they last the whole night, but at 2 a.m. most people are crying, apologizing, or asleep in the wrong place. I laughed more than I should have. The empty bar made everything feel intimate. It was like being backstage after hours, like I'd unlocked DLC. After a bit, she jerked her chin toward the back. "Su quer ver o lugar legal mesmo?" she said. "Back room. Mais quieto. And the good bottles are there." "Good how?" I asked. She winked. "The kind we don't waste on tourists." The corridor behind the bar was narrow, walls covered in old gig posters and tape residue. At the end was a heavy metal door with a keypad. She blocked my view with her hand, tapped in a code, and the lock clicked. The air changed when we stepped through. Warmer, thicker. No windows, just one yellow light over a long table covered in green felt. On it, poker chips, cards, overflowing ashtrays, and enough cash to pay my rent twice. For people sat around the table. All of them turned to look at us. "This is him," she said easily. "Oh boy que you fale. Gente boa. So pra a sister." The tallest guy, shaved head, faded neck tattoo, stared at me for a slow 3 seconds. Then he shrugged and looked back at his cards. The others followed his lead. A tired-looking woman shuffling the deck like it was part of her nervous system, a skinny rich kid type sweating through his shirt, and a heavy older man with a gold chain and the kind of belly that says, "I sit a lot, but I am dangerous anyway." I sat in a corner chair, suddenly very aware that I was the only one there without a role. The details were wrong in a way that felt right for something illegal. The CCTV camera in the corner had a black t-shirt taped over it. A metal box by the door held a handful of phones, screens down. There was duct tape on the floor marking where the table should sit. She moved like she owned the place, sliding behind chairs, refilling cups with whiskey from an unlabeled bottle. She leaned over tall guy's shoulder, murmured something in his ear. He smiled in that way that doesn't reach your eyes. I watched a couple of hands. Chips moved, bills changed stacks, tempers flared quietly and died down even quieter. The only sounds were the slap of cards, the click of plastic, and the occasional muttered "puta merda." She drifted back to me. "Ta calm medo," she teased. "Relax, mano. Staff night. Nobody's gonna steal your kidneys. They're not worth that much." "Thought this was like beers after work," I said. "It is," she said. "So que calm adrenalina. If it gets quent, you follow me, ta. Door there," she pointed at a half-hidden exit. "Turn right, up the metal stairs. Easy. The fact you have an emergency escape route is not as comforting as you think," I said. She laughed. "Welcome to Sao Paulo, baby. Even our fun comes with a plan B." The first knock was so loud it felt like it came from inside my chest. 3 heavy bangs. Then another. From the front of the bar. Everyone around the table froze. The cards stopped midair. The tired woman's hands went still for the first time since I'd arrived. From the street, car doors slamming. Boots hitting pavement. Radios crackling. Shouted commands, muffled but clear in that particular police rhythm. The tall guy hissed through his teeth. "Pora. Adiantaram." The room exploded. The woman swept the cards into a bag in one motion. Rich kid grabbed clumps of cash, stuffing them into his jacket, chips bouncing everywhere. Gold chain started talking too fast, words tripping over each other. She squeezed my wrist so hard it hurt. "Levanta," she whispered. "Now. If I say run, você cor entendo?" Before I could answer, the hallway outside filled with noise. A slam, like a door giving way. A shout. "Policia. Todo mundo parado." The door flew inward, smashing into the wall. The light swung wildly. Officers poured in, guns up, vests marked with Policia Civil, voices overlapping. "Mouse pra cima. No chao agora. Larga isso." Tall guy tried to shoulder past them. He got maybe half a step before they slammed him down onto the felt, chips and cards flying. Rich kid froze, hands halfway into his pockets. Gold chain went very still, then very quiet. Next to me, she let go of my wrist and put her hands up. For the first time, I saw her without the bartender act. No jokes. No grin. Just the girl in a stolen hoodie, realizing the night was over. One officer pointed at me. "Você." His eyes were sharp. "Levanta devagar. Maus na cabeça." I obeyed, legs shaking. My brain was doing that thing where it whispers, "This is fine. This is definitely not fine. What are you doing? This is not fine." I just met her. I started in Portuguese. "Ela diz que trabalhava aqui." "Quieto," he snapped. They cuffed everyone but me. Phones were collected from the metal box. The covered camera got its t-shirt ripped off. Someone kicked a chip, sending it spinning across the floor. Every sound was magnified, the click of metal, the slap of boots, someone breathing too hard. What a crazy Tinder date that was. He messaged me about carbonara instead of saying, hey. That was honestly all it took. Serious question, he wrote. If a man puts cream in a carbonara, should he go to prison or just never be allowed near pasta again? His photos were aggressively normal. One at the beach in Napoli, one in a tiny kitchen holding a pan like it was a newborn, one at a market holding an octopus that I tried not to think too hard about. He said he worked in a few kitchens around the city, nothing fancy, just trattoria and hotel restaurants. Low-key funny, a bit self-deprecating. I'm good with food, pessimo with small talk, he said. So let me cook for you, or at least choose somewhere nice. No tourist traps, giuro. He picked a place I'd never heard of, a little trattoria near Via dei Tribunali. Tranquilla, e angioiolino, he said. Only locals know. And old men who shout at the TV. Already sounded more promising than another aperitivo in some plastic rooftop bar where the DJ thinks volume equals vibes. The trattoria was exactly my type of place, narrow, warm, noisy. The kind of room where the walls sweat tomato sauce. Vespas screamed past outside every few minutes. You could smell garlic, frying anchovies, and exhaust fumes every time the door opened. He was already there when I walked in, standing up from the table near the window. In person he was better. Dark hair pushed back, rolled sleeves, faint burn marks on his forearms like kitchen battle scars. Ciao, he said, leaning in for the two-cheek kiss like we'd done this 100 times. You look even better than your photos. I was worried you were one of those girls who uses filter più forte di Photoshop. You're lucky you're cute, I said. Otherwise I'd throw this menu at you. He laughed, hand over his heart. Prometto di comportarmi. At least until dessert. NSFW joke number 1. We were off. He took charge of ordering like a man on a mission. No laminated tourist menu, just a blackboard and a waiter who looked like he hadn't smiled since '98. We share everything, okay? He said. Antipasti pasta, maybe a secondo if we survive. Best dates are the ones where you leave slightly fatter and slightly more attracted. When the antipasti arrived, little fried anchovies, zucchini blossoms, melanzane alla parmigiana, he watched my face like it was a cooking competition. You make good noises when you eat, he said. Molto promettente. Relax, I said, laughing. It's just mozzarella, not an orgasm. He raised his glass. Give me time. The wine was dangerously good. The light was the flattering kind that forgives all your sins. The conversation easy. We talked about bad dates. He told me about a girl who ordered a well-done steak and then lectured him on feminism for an hour. I support all women, he said. But if you ask for pasta with ketchup, I call the police. He told me about kitchens he'd worked in, tiny places where the oven door didn't close properly, tourist restaurants where the chef cried in the walk-in freezer, a beach club where the owner did coke off the espresso machine. Kitchen is like, how you say porno, he said. Hot, sweaty, everyone shouting, someone always burning something. I choked on my wine. Midway through the pasta, which was annoyingly perfect, he glanced around the room, not at me this time, but at the staff. He watched the waiter for a second too long, looked at the bar, at the till, at the corridor near the toilets, counted something under his breath. You all right? I asked. CSI, he said quickly, smile snapping back on. Just chef habits. I like to see how they move. How many staff? Who's doing what? Sorry, nerd stuff. He winked. I let it go. Everyone has their weird little work brain. A few minutes later, he put his napkin down. I go to the bagno, he said, tapping his stomach. Too much pasta. I come back skinny. You don't even recognize me. Bring your new skinny friend back too, I said. He smirked, squeezed my shoulder as he passed, and headed toward the back. Past the toilets. Past the kitchen door. I checked my phone, scrolled aimlessly. The restaurant hummed around me, clinking cutlery, a kid crying briefly, plates clattering in the kitchen, someone shouting subito for the third time. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The waiter came over, glanced at the empty chair opposite me. Tutto bene? He asked. CSI, I said. Louis al bagno. The waiter's mouth tightened slightly. He nodded and walked away, straight toward the manager at the bar. They started whispering. The manager looked toward the back, then toward me, then picked up the phone. My stomach did this weird slow drop. Another 5 minutes. No sign of him. I was halfway through wondering if he'd climbed out a tiny bathroom window to ghost me when the front door flew open, so hard it hit the wall. 2 officers walked in, uniforms dark against the warm light, badges out. The whole room went silent. Even the kitchen noise dipped. "Polizia," one of them said. "Davia el proprietario?" The manager raised his hand, face drained of color. He nodded toward the back, toward the same corridor my date had disappeared down. One officer stayed in the room. The other headed for the kitchen, pushing through the swinging door with a shout I couldn't make out. The silence snapped apart, a crash from the back, someone yelling, a clatter of metal. I stood up without meaning to. The officer near the entrance held out a hand. "Signorina, resti seduta," he said. "Per favor." I sat. A moment later, my date reappeared. He did not walk out. He was dragged. One officer had him by the arm, the other by the back of his shirt. His face was red, breathing hard. His hair was messed up, eyes wide and wild in a way I hadn't seen before. The backpack I hadn't noticed him bring was now in the officer's hand, the zip half open. "Un error," he kept saying. I was joking. The manager was yelling now, full Neapolitan fury unlocked. "Scherzando? Con la pistola in faccia al mio ragazzo. Ti sembra uno scherzo, figlio di." I didn't catch the rest. The swear words came too fast. The officer dropped the backpack on an empty table and unzipped it fully. Out spilled a black handgun, ugly, heavy-looking, the orange tip scratched off, a roll of zip ties, a black balaclava, and a folded piece of paper. He snapped on gloves, unfolded the note, read it, then held it up so the manager could see. "Medi tutti I contanti nel sacchetto. Niente eroi. Ti guardo di giorni," he read. "Romantic, eh?" I felt sick. The young waiter who'd been serving us stood near the bar, hands shaking. I could see now that his shirt was damp with sweat, eyes red like he'd just cried. One of the officers turned to me. "You were with him?" he asked. I nodded, throat dry. "Lo conosce quanto?" "Tre quattro giorni," I said. "We met on Tinder." He exhaled sharply, like that answered a question he'd been asking himself all week. "In the kitchen," he said quietly. He pointed this at the ragazzo. He lifted the fake gun. Told him to empty the till in a sacchetto. But the boy ran out the back door, straight into us. We were already close. The manager threw his towel on the floor. "What a night." He messaged first. "Just finished 12-hour shift. Your profile made my brain forget blood for 5 minutes, yar." I laughed. He sounded tired but funny. He talked about cases and rounds, about losing patience and saving some. The way he wrote felt humble, not show-off. I googled half the medical terms while chatting, and they all checked out. "Come some night," he said after a few days. "I'll show you behind the scenes. Proper filmy but fun. Hospital is peaceful when everyone else is sleeping." It sounded mad, but in my head it felt romantic? Quiet corridors, late-night chai, that kind of thing. Full Bollywood fantasy, boss. Friday, around 11:30 p.m., I reached the government hospital near Dadar he said he worked at. Outside was chaos. Autos, ambulances, relatives sleeping on newspapers, chai vendors shouting, dogs nosing at dustbins. Typical. He waved from the far side of the car park. Scrubs, black jacket, stethoscope hanging casually. Up close, he looked exactly like his pictures, maybe a bit thinner, dark circles under his eyes. "You came," he said, smiling. "I was half sure you'd ghost. Free hospital tour, we'll say no." I joked. I noticed one thing immediately, no ID card. Most staff had their tags banging against their chest. He had nothing. I told myself he must have left it in his locker. He didn't take me through the main entrance. He guided me round the side, past overflowing dustbins and a stack of broken stretchers, to a smaller door with staff only half peeled off. He pulled out a plain white card, like those generic office access cards, and swiped. Green light. Door clicked open. Inside, it was like a different world. The noise from outside vanished. The corridor was long, white, smelling of Dettol and old plaster. We walked past wards. I could hear low beeping, a baby crying somewhere, nurses talking softly in Marathi. He walked fast, like he knew every turn, explaining things. "This is the cath lab," he said, pointing to a door, and mispronounced it like cath room. "Cath lab, nah." I said. Yeah, cath lab only," he recovered quickly. "Everyone just calls it heart room." I'd never heard anyone call it that, but okay. A pair of nurses passed us. One glanced at him, then at me, then looked away too quickly. As they turned the corner, I heard one whisper in Marathi. Tochor surgeon ka case sunakia? Ajun pakta nahi natayala. Have you heard about that thief pretending to be a surgeon? They still haven't caught him, right? My ears rang a bit at that word, thief. I looked at him. He was staring straight ahead, jaw tight. We eventually reached a quieter wing. No relatives, no patients. Just trolleys and closed doors. The smell changed, less of people, more of chemicals and cold metal. Supply area, he said. Come, I'll show you where the real magic lives. At the end of the corridor was another door with a keypad. Above it, controlled drugs, authorized personnel only. I paused. We're allowed in there or what? He smiled, tired and charming. I am authorized person, no? He winked, but his eyes didn't match. He used the same plain white card. Green light again. Inside, the air was freezing. Refrigerators hummed. Shelves lined with boxes and vials, labels with words I couldn't pronounce. Fentanyl. Midazolam. Morphine. He moved with sudden purpose. Pulled a duffel bag from behind a trolley like he'd left it waiting. Unzipped. Inside were foam cutouts, little slots perfectly shaped for vials. He started lifting bottles off the shelves, scanning labels quickly, dropping them into the bag with practiced hands. They don't track this properly, he muttered. No one cross-checks usage. It's a joke. For a second, my brain tried to make the research excuse for him. Then I saw how fast his breathing had become. The way his eyes kept flicking to the small CCTV camera in the corner. And then away. I said quietly, you're allowed to take all that or? Relax, he snapped, sharper than before. You think I'd risk my license for fun? License. ID, all the things I hadn't actually seen. A soft beep started somewhere above us. Not siren, just a warning. A little red LED above the door began to blink. What's that? I asked. Temperature alarm, he said too quickly. Nothing. The beep sped up. DDDD. My heart matched it. Through the door, I heard distant voices. Somebody laughing. A trolley being pushed. And underneath all of it, one more sound, my own pulse in my ears. He zipped the bag halfway, slinging it over his shoulder. We should go, he said. Back the way we came. I think I should go home, I said. My voice sounded small, like it belonged to someone else. It's late. He stepped closer, blocking the door. We were still in that tiny room. Shelves behind me, fridge to my left, him right in front. His smile was gone now, replaced with something blank, like a switch had flipped. Listen, he said softly, too softly. If someone checks cameras right now, what they'll see? You and me. In and out. Together. My throat went dry. I didn't do anything. He shrugged one shoulder. They don't know that, Yar. You came through staff door. You walked all this way. You watched me pack bag, and you said nothing. The beep suddenly stopped. Silence rushed in heavy. The red LED above the door turned steady. Whatever system had been waking up went back to sleep. He held my gaze. So better we leave normally, okay? You act chilled, I act chilled. You go home. Forget this floor exists. Something in me wanted to scream, throw the bag, run. But my legs felt hollow. Every horror story I'd ever heard about, wrong place, wrong time, played in my head. Move, I said finally, forcing my voice not to crack. Please. We walked back together. Past humming fridges, past whispering nurses, past relatives sleeping on the floor. Outside, the night air hit me like I'd been underwater. At the gate, he said, like nothing had happened. Text me when you reach. I worry. I stared at him. You're not really a surgeon, are you? He smiled that same tired smile from his profile. Online, everyone is something, no? I didn't reply. Just turned and walked to the auto stand, legs shaking. 3 days later, I was at a different hospital with my mom for her checkup. At the security desk, there was a laminated notice taped to the glass. Warning, individual posing as doctor. Do not allow entry without verified ID. Grainy CCTV still. Scrubs. Black jacket. The same half smile. My stomach flipped. I opened my phone out of habit. Our chat was gone. Not blocked, deleted. Like he'd never been there. I looked up at the corridor leading deeper into the hospital. Fluorescent lights buzzing, trolleys squeaking, doctors' coats swishing past. Somewhere in all that white, someone was walking confidently, stethoscope swinging, card in hand. And I knew if he saw me again, he'd smile exactly the same way and tell whatever lie fit the ward he was standing in. We bantered. She was fast, cheeky, full of energy. Said she mostly worked privately, old school, no apps. because clients trusted her with keys, alarm codes, the works. It sounded grown-up, responsible, all that. After a few days, she suggested coffee by the river. "I'll probably have a couple of my regulars with me," she wrote. "They get separation anxiety without me." That should have been my first red flag. Dogs with separation anxiety from their walker, not their owners. I got there 10 minutes early. Little riverside cafe, string lights, people with laptops pretending to work. I was mid-sip when I saw her coming down the path. She didn't have a couple of dogs. She had 6. They were a knotted mass of leads and bodies. 2 golden retrievers, a skinny Dalmatian, a squat bulldog, and 2 little mixed breeds yapping nonstop. The big ones pulled like they were trying to escape. The small ones kept looking back over their shoulders, whining. She stumbled up to the table, hair stuck to her forehead, grinning. "Sorry, they're a lot," she laughed, tugging hard on the leads. One golden yelped. She didn't even glance down. Everyone was staring. One of the little dogs knocked into a woman's chair and almost sent her coffee flying. She threw out a quick automatic sorry. And then to me, "See? Job security." She tied all 6 leashes to the leg of a nearby bench. The dogs didn't settle. They kept pacing, twisting around each other, making soft, worried noises. I noticed none of them had name tags. Just plain collars cut short, like someone had hacked them to size in a hurry. I tried to talk to her, but kept getting distracted. Her phone buzzed constantly. Every time, she'd glance at it really fast and flip it over. I caught a glimpse once, a notification banner with a crying emoji and the words, "Have you seen him?" "So how long you had that Dalmatian?" I asked, nodding at the spotty one. "He yours?" "Oh, that's Archie," she said. "Had him since he was a pup. Loves chasing ducks." Later, she told a story about Archie slipping his lead near a lake. In that version, Archie was a Labrador. "You said he was a Dalmatian," I said, half joking. She blinked. "What? Earlier. You said Archie was a Dalmatian." She laughed too loud, too quickly. "Oh, did I? I meant Bella. I mix them up all the time. Thing is, none of them looked like they'd been with her long. Their fur still had that faint clean shampoo smell owners love after a groomer. The bulldog's harness had a little patch of fur worn away where a different strap must have sat before. The Dalmatian's collar had a tan line in the shape of a different one. I went inside to get another drink and give myself a second to breathe. At the counter, there was a cluster of flyers. One of them caught my eye. Missing family dog reward. Big photo of a golden retriever. Same color. Same dark eyes. Same weird little swirl of fur on the chest as the one tied to the bench outside. My stomach went cold. When I came back out, she was crouched by the dogs, stroking the missing golden in this stiff, performative way, glancing around as if checking who was watching. The dog's tail wasn't wagging. It was tucked so far under it almost disappeared. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, they're just needy." She stood up so fast the bench scraped. "Hey, do you mind helping me walk them back to my car after? It's in the next street. I can drop them home quicker if we split the leads." Every instinct in me screamed no. "I actually need to head off in a sec," I lied. "My mate's waiting on me." Her eyes flicked to the cafe door, then to the road behind me, like she was checking for someone. "You haven't even finished your drink," she said. There was no warmth in it now. "You can walk me to the car at least. It's getting busy. Don't want them to get stressed." She pulled her phone out, tapped something, slipped it back. When she looked up, the smile was back, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Come on," she said, already untying the leashes. "It'll take 2 minutes." I forced a laugh. "I'll walk you to the corner, yeah? I really can't be late." We headed up the side street. The dogs dragged, not eager but desperate, like they were trying to pull in 6 different directions at once. Halfway down, she stopped beside a white van. No branding. Back doors facing the wall. The inside smelled like damp fabric and something sharp and chemical. She handed me 3 leads. "Hold these a sec." The dogs backed away from the van, claws scraping, leads taut. Their bodies told me what their voices couldn't. That was it for me. "Look, I've just remembered I actually am late," I said, shoving the leads back toward her. "I'm gonna go. Sorry." Her face changed. The friendly walker vanished. For a split second, I saw something cold, calculating. "You don't have to be weird about it," she said softly. "You've already been with me an hour. You're in the cameras. People saw you." It wasn't a threat exactly, but it landed like one. "Yeah, maybe. Still gotta go," I said, stepping back. "Good luck with all this." I matched with her on some dead Tuesday night, half bored in my room in Peckham, thumb just doing that zombie scroll. She messaged me to begin with. "Oi, you look like you return trolleys at Tesco. That's rare." I laughed. It was stupid but funny. We got into this easy back and forth. She was sharp, bit blunt in that no-nonsense way. Said she worked at a dealership near Croydon, hated customers who pretended they had cash when they were financing their ego on a 7-year plan. It sounded like something someone in sales would actually say, you know? We chatted for a few days. Voice notes, memes, quick calls. Her accent was weirdly flexible. Sometimes sounded a bit South London, sometimes more Surrey. I joked about it once and she said, "Yeah, blame my mum. Moved around loads." Fair enough. By Thursday she goes, "Friday night, I'll pick you up. My baby's brand new. You can help me test the sound system." I'm thinking safe. Free lift and a girl confident enough to offer to drive? Rare. She sends a pin for my road, says she'll be outside at 7. Friday comes. Muggy evening, that sticky London heat where it's not actually hot, but you're still sweating. I'm running late, obviously, spraying deodorant like it's holy water. When I step out, there she is. Sleek black SUV, parked right outside like something from a brochure. Proper shiny, deep black, no scratches. Paper tags where the plates should be, still flapping slightly. Windows tinted just enough to look expensive, not enough to look dodgy. She rolls the window down and smiles. In person, she looks even better. Hair down, simple white top, little gold chain. No overdone makeup, just put together. There's this light perfume that hits me when I open the door. Not sweet. Sharp. Clean. The first thing that hits me inside is that new car smell. Not like your mate's new Fiesta. This is strong, chemical, like the thing rolled straight out the factory and into my lap. The seats are flawless. No creases, no crumbs, not even that little sag where someone sat a few times. Plastic still on the passenger sun visor. Floor mat spotless. Even the screen protector still on the infotainment. "Rah," I say, closing the door. "This is fresh, you know." She laughs, flicks her hair away from her face. "Work perk, innit? We get to take out the new models sometimes. Gotta sell them, gotta love them." I clock something small. There's no key in the ignition, just push start, but I don't see a fob anywhere. Not in the cup holder, not hanging from the wheel, nowhere. I assume it's in her bag. My brain shrugs and moves on. We pull off and she drives like she owns every lane. One hand on the wheel, the other resting on the gear stick. R&B low on the speakers, dashboard still on that generic factory setting like nobody's ever changed anything. No saved radio stations. No Bluetooth name. Nothing personalized. I go, "You not got any presets?" She shrugs. "Company car. Can't be bothered redoing it every time." Fair enough, but the screen also has no sat nav history. 0 recent destinations. Like it's never gone anywhere. Conversation's good though. She's easy. Tells me about annoying coworkers, customers trying to haggle on finance, some older bloke who came in and stroked the steering wheel like it was a cat. I can picture her behind a desk doing the whole salesman patter. It fits. But as we get closer to Croydon, little things start piling up in the back of my head. She keeps glancing into the mirrors. Not normal, I'm a safe driver checks. Like every 10 seconds. Rear view, side mirror, rear view again. More like she's checking if we're being followed. "You good, yeah?" I ask. "Yeah, just hate tailgaters," she says, even though the road behind us is basically empty. We drive past a big billboard, some generic advert for a different dealership, Vauxhall this time. I see her jaw tighten, just for a second. She looks away, fiddles with the volume, almost like she doesn't want to see it. We get to the restaurant she picked. Not some fancy spot. Just a small Italian tucked behind a petrol station, buzzing with that low hum of people and clinking plates. She drives straight into the front row space like she's been there 100 times. As we walk in, I notice she parks nose first, right up against the window. The SUV is practically framed like a display piece. Reflection of the blue evening sky on the bonnet, paper tags still hanging where the plates should be. It looks wrong. Too new, too clean, sitting next to everyone else's dented hatchbacks. Inside, it's warm and cozy. Red checkered tablecloths, fake vines on the ceiling, cheap candles and old wine bottles. We sit by the window, her facing the door, me facing the car. She keeps her phone on the table, screen down. It buzzes every so often. She doesn't check it. Not once. "You gonna grab that?" I ask at one point. "Nah," she says too quickly. "Just work stuff." They'll survive. She's telling me how she used to work up north before the Croydon branch, and how she's top in sales most months. It sounds rehearsed, like she's reciting a script she's nailed down over time. Accent shifts again, just slightly, a bit more northern than back to south. I can't place where she's actually from. Halfway through my pasta, I hear it first, faint siren somewhere outside. London noise, standard. I don't think much of it, but they get louder, closer. People start pausing mid-conversation, forks halfway to mouths. Blue and red lights flash through the restaurant window, washing over the SUV like it's on stage. One police car, then another, then a third tight formation, pulling right into the petrol station, lights spinning mad. Someone at the back mutters, "What the?" The waitress freezes by the bar, holding 2 plates. I'm still half laughing at some story she's telling about a Karen customer when I notice one of the cops step out and point directly at the SUV. No hesitation. Full arm out, finger on that exact car. My stomach drops like a lift. The door swings open, bell jangling too loud, and an officer walks in with his hand on his radio. He scans the room once. His eyes lock on her like he already knows where she's sitting. He says her full name. Not just Emma. Full. Name. Middle included. Clear. Firm. Rehearsed. Would you stand up for me, please? The whole place goes silent. Even the kitchen noise seems to die. She does this half laugh, half eye roll. "What's this about?" she says, playing confused. But she stands. Her napkin falls to the floor. 2 more officers file in behind the first. One stays by the door, one moves closer, watching her hands. The radio on the first officer's chest crackles quietly, some code numbers, someone saying, "Unit outside, vehicle confirmed." She looks at me then. Just once. It's not fear on her face. It's the look of someone whose luck's finally run out. Tired. Annoyed. Like she knew this was always a possibility. "Hands where we can see them," one cop says. She doesn't fight. Doesn't argue. Just lifts her hands slowly. They cuff her right there, next to my chair. I can feel everyone staring at me like I brought this chaos with me. I just wanted to get out of there. She messaged first. "Dimmy, are you more minimal candles or full extra drama at a party?" We joked about ugly corporate events, plastic flowers, clients with no taste. She sent me behind-the-scenes pics, half-built arches, boxes of fairy lights, her in leggings and a hoodie climbing a ladder. I work hard but make it cute." After a few days she wrote, "Saturday I'm finishing a setup in a magazino just foory. Big project. If you want to see something cool, pass by. It's nicer than a bar, juro. Oraga, pensavo fos solo scenografia, juro." I said sure. Saturday night was freezing. She sent a pin to an industrial zone near the tangential. The Uber left me in front of a row of old Capanoni, ex-factories with graffiti, flickering neon over a kebab place, scooters buzzing on the main road in the distance. Her warehouse door was metal big with no sign. Just a small strip of light at the bottom. I messaged Sonoka. The door screeched open a bit and she appeared, hair up, oversized hoodie, leggings, work boots. Entra, fa Unfredo cane," she said, pulling me in and shutting the door quickly. Inside, my nose filled with cold air, plastic, and a sharp chemical smell under a hint of perfume. There were string lights hanging low, casting this yellow-white glow. In the middle of the space, I saw some of the stuff I expected. Half-inflated balloons tied to weights, a couple of round tables with white cloths, a few fake flower arrangements. But most of the warehouse wasn't that. On all sides, stacked almost to the ceiling, were boxes. Neat towers labeled in big black letters, Gucci, Prada, Dior, Louis Vuitton. I laughed, half impressed. "Mamma mia, che evento è questo? Fashion Week Segreta?" She smiled, but it was tight. "Props," she said. "Per un party team a luxury. People want the vibe, non possono pagare il vero." She walked over to one stack, opened a box with quick hands, and pulled out a handbag wrapped in plastic. It was a Gucci jackie, almost perfect. Almost. The stitching was precise but too stiff, the hardware just a shade too bright. When she tore the plastic, the smell hit me, not leather. More like glue and cheap vinyl. "Belly no," she murmured, running her fingers over the logo. "They don't know the difference. Nessuno guarda così da vicino." Her eyes were intense. Like she wasn't talking about a bag, but a person. I looked around more carefully. There were printers set up near a folding table. Rolls of labels, stacks of branded paper, QR stickers. Next to them, Silicone molds clearly shaped like metal logos, little LVs and Gs lined up like teeth. Another corner had open crates full of wallets, belts, watches with faces all set to the same time. "E tutto per una festa?" I asked, my voice drier than I meant. She shrugged, not looking at me. "Fest, photo shoot, influencer, online shop. The world needs dreams, no?" In the distance outside, I heard a faint whoop whoop whoop, low, rhythmic. Helicopter. Somewhere over the ring road. My skin prickled. "I mean sembrano veri." I tried to joke. "Spero non arriva la finanza, eh." She laughed, but it came out wrong. "La finanza non viene mai che," she said. "Loro guardano I negozi in centro. Io sono solo dietro le quinte." She moved between the boxes like a priest in a church, touching different labels, whispering brand names under her breath. Chanel, Dior, Hermes. It sounded almost like a rosary. The more I saw, the colder I felt. There weren't just a few props. There were hundreds, maybe thousands, all cataloged and ready. On a whiteboard, instead of mood boards and color schemes, there were numbers, shipment dates, initials. Arrows pointing from MI to DE, FR, AE. Export. "De quanto fai questo?" I asked, nodding toward the boxes, not the balloons. She finally looked at me, really looked. Something hard flashed behind her eyes. "D'Abastanza," she said. "Long enough to pay for everyone else's weddings while they brag about real bags on Instagram." For a second, I saw the decorator mask slip. Underneath was just someone very, very tired and very, very dangerous. I shoved my hands in my pockets so she wouldn't see they were shaking. "Comunque tardi," I said. "Domani lavoro. Devo anar." "So presto," she said, stepping closer. "Non vuoi vedere il resto? The special pieces?" She nodded toward the back, where the string lights didn't reach. Only darkness and the outline of more crates. "Magari la prossima volta," I said, forcing a smile. "Mi stio gelando davvero." She studied me, then shrugged and turned away. "Come voi," she said. "People always want the show. No one wants to see the backstage." On the way out, I brushed against one of the boxes. It shifted. For one horrible second I thought everything would fall. But it steadied. Fake luxury, solid enough to crush you if it slipped. Outside, the air felt less cold than inside. I walked all the way to the tram instead of calling another Uber, hands deep in my coat, heart beating too fast. 2 weeks later, I was at my parents' place for Sunday lunch. My mama had the TV on low in the kitchen. I was half asleep on the sofa when I heard it. "Maxi sequestro di mers contraffata nella periferia di Milano." My eyes snapped open. On the screen was a helicopter shot of a warehouse. Same area. Same ugly roof. Police vans lined up. Boxes being rolled out in long lines, logos blurring together. They showed a grainy photo of a woman in a hoodie, head down as she was pushed into a car. Even from the side, I recognized the curve of her jaw. "Oraga," I whispered. "Ele." My mama appeared behind me with a plate of lasagna, squinting at the TV. "Ma guarda tu," she said. "Sempre questi furbi. I tu stai ancora li conosci ragazza su quell'app. Vuoi finire in galera per colpa loro?" "Tranquilla ma, non è successo niente," I said, but I felt ice in my stomach. "Mi son gelato dentro." "Gia," she snorted. "Per adesso. Basta Fidati di tua madre. Smettila di fidarti del bel facchi su internet. Quelcon I palancini sono lu peggiori." "You look like you drink coffee too late and still wake up for work on time." "Unfortunately, yes," I replied. We talked about cafes around Tokyo, which ones had the best Enmitsu, which ones played old jazz too loud. She complained that most places closed too early. "Real conversations start after 10, she wrote. "Day customers just want Wi-Fi." A few days later, she suggested we meet. "There's a little place I know in an old Shotengai," she said. "Closed to the public, but the owner lets me use it sometimes after hours. It's quiet. You'll like it." Honestly, I thought, "Ma, it's okay, you know? Private cafe, kind of romantic, kind of sketchy, but we're in Tokyo, not a horror movie." I said yes. The night we met, the Shotengai was mostly dead. Half the shutters were down, metal ribs catching the neon from a lone pachinko sign. Vending machines hummed. The air smelled like old oil and dust. The cafe she'd pinned looked closed. Paper covered the lower half of the windows, curling at the edges. A fading sign in the glass read, "Temporary closed, renovation." The door was locked. Inside was dark. I checked the pin again. Same place. I typed, "I think I'm here." Immediately, I saw movement behind the paper. A shadow. The lock clicked, and the door opened just enough for her to slip out, then pull me in with a small, rushed bow. Summa Mason, the wind is cold, she said. Come quickly. Inside, it smelled like stale coffee and damp wood. The overhead lights didn't work. She had lit candles instead. Dozens of them. Little beige ones in mismatched cups, tall ones melted into saucers. They made the place flicker, shadows of chair legs stretching long like thin bodies. Wa sugoi, I said automatically, even though my skin was prickling. You really like candles, any? She smiled, head tilted. Fluorescent light kills conversation, she said. Please sit anywhere you like. Except that one. She pointed to a single chair in the center of the room. It was pulled slightly away from the table, facing the room more than the table itself. That's my seat, she added almost shyly. Dust lay on most surfaces, but there were clean circles where cups had recently been. Stacked chairs loomed in a corner under a paint-stained drop cloth, like something sleeping. The handwritten menu on the wall still had dates from before the pandemic. She set out 2 chipped cups and poured coffee from a stainless steel thermos. When I lifted mine, the rim felt a little gritty. I pretended not to notice. Japanese politeness is a kind of curse sometimes. You come here often? I asked. Real regular, like Master-san knows your order? Her eyes flicked to the empty counter. They used to, she said. Now it's just me. It's better. Customers are quiet now. She said it in this strange way, like she wasn't joking. As we talked, she drifted. Sometimes she looked at me, sometimes at the empty tables behind me, nodding like someone else had just said something interesting. Once, she laughed at nothing and said, You always say that, to the air near the kitchen door. I told myself, maybe she's just eccentric. Somewhere behind the counter, a faint sound started. Con. Soft, electronic. I glanced toward it. What's that? Ah, just the old fridge, she said quickly, standing up. It makes noise when it's lonely. The beeping got a little faster. Con. She picked up one of the candles and moved it, then another, rearranging them so they encircled that center chair. The room began to feel less like a cafe and more like a stage, or a ritual. People never sit where I want them to, she murmured, almost to herself. They always choose the window. Before, when it was open. She brushed past the table and whispered, Summa Mason ni, I know it's late, to the empty seat. The beeping changed. A longer tone. The con became pi. That doesn't sound like a fridge, I said. She froze for half a second, then forced a smile. Maybe the power, Ma. It's an old building, she said. Don't worry. No one comes. Not anymore. I realized then what bothered me most. There was no sign of an owner. No ledger, no recent delivery slips, no fresh anything. Just layers of dust and her candles. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice light. The owner really lets you do this? Use the place like this? She tilted her head. In the candlelight, her eyes looked darker. He doesn't mind, she said. He stopped minding a long time ago. The beeping suddenly stopped. Silence dropped heavy, like when an aircon turns off and you realize how loud it was. A faint click echoed from somewhere near the back, metal on metal like a latch. Or a timer. I felt something very old and very simple rise up in me. I shouldn't be here. I cleared my throat. Ono essay. I actually have last train. If I miss it, it's Taihen. Maybe we can come again when it's more, finished. Her smile vanished entirely. For a moment, her face was blank. Then she bowed her head slightly, too formal. So disu ka, she said quietly. You're like them. Them? She didn't answer. She walked to the door, her slippers making soft sounds on the dusty floor. She unlocked it, but kept her hand on the handle. Please go quietly, she said. The neighbors don't like noise at night. There are no neighbors, I wanted to say, thinking of the shuttered shops outside. Instead, I just nodded and gave a small, awkward bow. Ojimashimashita, I said out of habit. Sorry to have disturbed. Her reply followed me out into the Shotengai. You'll come back, she said, almost to herself. Everyone says they won't. But they always want somewhere quiet, in the end. The vending machine light felt harsh after the candle glow. I walked fast, not looking back until I turned the corner. When I did, the cafe window was dark again. No flicker, no movement, like I'd imagined the whole thing. Corporate logistics. Between flights more than home. Collect airport lounges like memories. Ish, I thought this oak was legit, hey. He messaged first. Let me guess, your crew. Only crew take selfies next to the galley curtain. I laughed. Guilty. We started talking shop, delays, drunk passengers, which airports had the best showers. He knew the lingo enough to sound convincing. Not perfect, but close. I'm in your city on Saturday for 4 hours, he said. Quick turnaround to Zurich. Coffee in the lounge? I can get you into a proper VIP, not that overcrowded business one. I'm a flight attendant, Ja. Lounges don't impress me much anymore. But something about the way he talked, casual, confident, hooked me. And meeting at the airport felt safer. My turf. Saturday comes. I meet him at the pickup zone outside departures. Small carry-on with a battered airline tag, blazer over a plain tee, that frequent flyer swagger. Lekker to finally see you, he says, leaning in for a hug like we've known each other for months. He smells like expensive cologne and airplane air. Thought you said you're Zurich bound? I ask, eyeing his bag tag. The routing code is old. Wrong airline. Wrong month. Ah, that one's from last trip. I'm useless at removing tags, he says smoothly. Come, let's go before the amateurs clog security. We go in through staff security, my crew pass getting me through, him flashing a laminated badge I don't recognize. Wrong lanyard color for this airport. Logo slightly off. My brain notes it, but I brush it away. Maybe he has some interline thing. Airports are full of weird exceptions. He leads instead of following me, which already feels backwards. Takes a side corridor I've only seen porters use. Greets a security guard with, "Afternoon, Chief," then calls him Captain 2 seconds later. No one with a real airside job mixes those up. We reach an unmarked door with a keypad. He swipes his little card. Green. Door clicks open. Inside, it's a lounge, but not like the ones I know. Air is stale, slightly sour. TV screens are dark, unplugged cables dangling. The bar counter is stripped, fridges off with their doors ajar, smelling faintly of warm plastic and old tonic. In the corners, I can just make out shapes of stacked chairs under dust sheets, like passengers frozen mid-weight. This is a special VIP zone, he says. They keep it for certain clients when it's quiet. Shame, hey, I say, forcing a joke. Looks more like storage. He laughs, but his eyes flick to the emergency exit sign, then back. We sit. My crew brain is running checklists. No staff, no catering, no current branding, just an old poster with the previous airline partner's logo, 3 years outdated. He hops behind the bar like he owns it, opening fridges, clinking empty bottles together. Champagne, he asks, bending down. I hear him open and close cupboards that I know should be locked. Nothing. He comes back with 2 empty glasses. No bottle. No ice. Just the props. Under the silence, there's a sound. A faint bing, bing, bing from the corridor outside. Not an alarm, just a door being held open too long, maybe. The automated announcement system crackles to life somewhere far away. Security alert. Please do not leave your baggage unattended. In English, then Afrikaans. It's routine, but tonight it grates. You sure we're allowed here? I ask, softer now. He smiles, but it's tight. I've been here plenty. They know me. Ja, but he hasn't once greeted anyone by name. Real regulars always have someone to nod at. Cleaners, agents, barmen. He has no one. He puts the glass down, leans forward. You look tense. Your crew, you should be used to back corridors and alarms by now. Exactly, I say. That's why I know when something feels off. For a second, we just look at each other. His face goes blank, all that charm peeling away like old branding from a plane. You can leave if you want, he says. But you walked in here with me. Cameras don't care who suggested what. The way he says it makes my skin crawl. Not a threat, just a fact he's used before. I stand up anyway. Muscle memory kicks in, calm, smile, de-escalate the drunk passenger, get him back in his seat. I actually need to check in with my crew. I lie. Roster change. If they don't find me, they'll page. You know how ops get. He studies me for a moment, then shrugs. Of course. I'll walk you back. We step into the corridor. The bing, bing, bing stops as the door shuts behind us. A cleaning staff member appears at the far end, pushing a cart, eyeing us. He looks at my crew pass, then at the unmarked door we just left, frowning. You're not supposed to be down here, he says. Lounge closed. Renovation. Before I can speak, the corporate logistics guy laughs, claps me lightly on the shoulder. Sorry, my mistake, he says smoothly. Wrong level. She's crew, I'm just lost. He steers me away before I can correct him. My heart is pounding now, but my face stays neutral. Years of turbulence practice. At the main concourse, the noise hits like a wave. Families, trolleys, departure boards flickering. He stops, suddenly separate from all of it. "So," he says lightly, "same time next layover?" "I don't think so, Brew," I say. "I've got enough airports in my life." He watches me for a beat, then smiles that glossy, hollow smile again. "Suit yourself. Lots of terminals in the world." I walk away, straight to crew security, not looking back. In the briefing room, someone's phone is open on a local news site. Headline: Serial airport imposter targeting restricted areas. Staff warned to check IDs. The blurry CCTV still could be any suit with a carry-on. But the way he stands, weight on one leg, card in hand, is too familiar. I don't say anything. I just sit down, fasten my lanyard, and feel the building around me differently. Like every side door and back corridor might have someone like him already inside, badge raised, smile ready, waiting for the next person who thinks, "Eesh, this oak seems legit, hey." I matched with her on a rainy Sunday afternoon, half watching some pointless show with the sound off while I scrolled. Her profile stopped me dead in my tracks. No filters. No duck face. No live laugh love quotes. Just chaos. She jumped from topic to topic when we spoke. Bridezillas, terrible playlists, why men always pick the same 3 proposal songs. It should have been annoying, but it was hypnotic. Every time I thought the conversation was done, she'd pivot. By the end of the day, she asked, "What you doing later this week, lanyard boy?" "Not much," I replied. "Why?" "Take me to dinner. You can rescue me from rhinestones. I finish late most nights. Come grab me from the shop, and we'll go somewhere nice." We picked Thursday. She sent the name of the boutique, a high-end place on a fancy high street I normally only walk down to feel poor. The evening was typical East London rain, thin and cold, enough to soak your jeans without ever turning into a proper storm. The boutique glowed like a lantern on a dark street. Most shops were already shut, shutters halfway down. But this place was still blazing with warm light, white dresses lined in perfect rows like ghosts waiting their turn. I parked up, heart doing that stupid first date stutter. Through the glass I could see chandeliers, mirrors, those big velvet chairs brides sit in while their friends cry. It looked stupidly expensive. The kind of place where they probably charge you for breathing near the silk. I texted, "Here, smiley face." She replied instantly, "2 secs, just escaping my boss. He's obsessed with closing time. Total psycho. Don't run away." A minute later, the door opened, and out she walked, in a full wedding dress. Not a simple one either. This thing looked like it had its own insurance policy. Lace sleeves, low back, tiny buttons all the way down, train gathered in her fists as she hurried along the pavement. The fabric shimmered under the streetlights like it had its own spotlight. She gave me this huge grin, like nothing about this was remotely strange. "All right, lanyard boy," she called, accent thick. "Told you I'd be straight out." People on the pavement slowed down to stare. One woman nudged her friend and whispered something, both of them looking between me and her like we'd just eloped out of nowhere. She yanked open the passenger door, scooped the dress up, and poured herself into the seat, laughing as the train tried to escape back onto the pavement. "Sorry," she said, breathless. "We were filming a wee promo thing for the shop. I'm the relatable bride, apparently. Didn't get time to change. Is it dead weird if I eat pasta dressed like this?" I laughed, because what else was I supposed to do? "No, it's fine. Just don't get tomato sauce on 4 grand's worth of lace." She snorted. 4? Try 8, babe. You're driving a crime scene." I thought she was joking. We pulled away from the curb. She kept fiddling with the sleeves, smoothing the bodice, squeezing into the seatbelt. Her perfume, something sharp and sweet, filled the car. People kept turning their heads as we passed, and I couldn't stop glancing at her. It was absurd. Surreal. Kind of funny. She talked nonstop. Stories about brides fainting, mothers crying, one woman whose fiancé hated her chosen dress so much he tried to ban it. She jumped between English and that Glasgow edge, words tumbling over each other. You'd be shocked, honestly. Folk lose their minds over white fabric. They think the dress is gonna fix their whole life. As if tulle can cure a bad personality. Every couple of minutes, she checked the side mirror. Not just a quick peek, really checked, leaning forward, eyes narrow. I joked, "You expecting someone to chase us?" Angry bridesmaid with a bat. She forced a laugh, but her fingers twitched on the skirt. "Nah, my boss is just a control freak. Hates when I leave late. Probably timing me. It's fine. Her tone didn't match her face. Her mouth was smiling. Her knuckles were white. We hadn't gone 10 minutes when blue lights exploded in the rearview mirror. For a second I honestly thought, speed camera? Broken light? Something normal. My stomach dropped as 2 police cars pulled in behind us, sirens slicing through the quiet street. I pulled over, heart hammering. She went absolutely still. No chatter. No jokes. Her hands clamped onto the dress like she was trying to disappear into it. Her eyes fixed straight ahead, pupils huge. 2 officers approached, one on each side. I rolled down my window, trying to look calm and definitely not a criminal. Evening, the one on my side said, scanning inside the car. His gaze stuck on her, then flicked back to me. Can you tell me who this is to you? She's my date, I said, voice cracking more than I liked. I picked her up from the bridal shop down the road. She works there. The officer's eyes didn't soften. He leaned down, peering at her. What's your name, miss? She hesitated. The tiniest pause. Then, Kira. Kira MC. McKenna. The name came out wrong. Too slow, like she had to search for it. The other officer was already talking into his radio. Eyes on the dress, the boutique visible in the distance. My palms were slick on the steering wheel. Sir, switch off the engine and step out of the vehicle for me, the first officer said. I obeyed, legs unsteady. They led me a few steps away, asked how long I'd known her, how we met, if I'd been in the boutique with her. I told them everything, the app, the messages, the promo story, the filming. One of them sighed through his teeth. Right. Stand over here. You're not under arrest, but don't go anywhere. Behind me, I heard her door open. Miss, step out of the car, please, the second officer said. No, it's freezing, she muttered. Can't we? Out of the car. Now. She slid out, clutching the dress to her knees. As she turned, I saw it, a tag still attached under her waist, tucked badly into the lace. A long white price tag. Swinging. The officer plucked it free, read it, and showed his partner. £7 $9.95, he said quietly. Matches the description. He turned to me. You really didn't know? My throat closed. Know what? That this dress was reported stolen 10 minutes ago, he said. From that boutique. He pointed down the road. The shop lights were still blazing. Staff were gathered at the door, one of them on the phone, the others staring in our direction. They started talking fast now, to her rather than me. Something about previous incidents. Other boutiques. CCTV. She'd come in before pretending to be staff, dropping first names, using insider vocabulary. Walked out with a dress while the real employees were distracted. She tried to cry then, tears tracking through her makeup. It's a mistake, she kept saying, accent thicker, almost choking. I was meant to, they said I could. I do this for work, I swear. But their tone had changed. They'd already run the name she stumbled over. It didn't match the face. She'd hit shops in Manchester, Leeds, Brighton. Always designer gowns. Always a dating app ride waiting outside to carry her away, completely unaware. The officer cuffed her gently but firmly, lace bunching under the metal. Kira McKenna, you're under arrest on suspicion of theft and fraud. People slowed as they drove past, staring at the woman in the white dress being loaded into the back of a police car. The blue lights flashed off the sequins. For a second, she looked straight at me through the glass. No tears then, just this hollow, furious disbelief. I matched with him midweek night, half lying on my bed in student housing, pretending to study and absolutely not studying. I told him my name was actually Aoife, and that the last unselfish thing I did was hold the door open for 3 people in a row, and not one of them said thanks. He laughed. We'll have you running the country yet. I help with a wee community fund. Nothing fancy, just keeping people from going under if the rent hits too hard. He didn't flirt much. Know you up nonsense. Mostly he talked about how easy it was for people to slip through the cracks, how a couple of €100 could keep a family afloat for a month, how most people would give if you just asked properly. It sounded decent, grounded. He had that soft Dublin way of talking in voice notes, dropping in sure look, and you know yourself, every few sentences. After a couple of days, he said, we're doing a small street collection Saturday. Nothing mad. Couple of hours on Grafton Street with the buckets. You'd be very welcome to come help, if you'd like. Not a date, more like see what I actually do. I hesitated. It felt weird to meet a Tinder guy by immediately standing on the street asking strangers for money. But he sounded so normal, and it didn't feel like some trick. I pictured us side by side with the buckets, having little chats between people passing. All right, I said. I'll come for a bit, but if I get pneumonia, I'm sending you the bill. Deal, he replied. I'll bring you a coffee and everything. Sure, look, it's only a few quid for the families, you know yourself. Saturday was typical Dublin. Light drizzle, grey sky, buskers murdering Ed Sheeran halfway down the street. He texted me a pin for a spot near the top of Grafton, close to a pharmacy. When I got there, he was already set up beside a little folding table. Yellow buckets were stacked on top of it, a banner draped across the front that read Community Hearts Relief with a big red heart logo. He was wearing a blue waterproof jacket with the same heart printed on the chest. You must be Aoife, he said, smiling like we'd known each other ages. Fair play for coming out. Here. He handed me a laminated badge with my first name written in marker and one of the buckets. It felt solid real. The banner looked professionally printed. There was even a clipboard on the table with lines of names and amounts written neatly across it. Don't worry if you feel awkward at first, he said. You just stand there, look approachable, and people do the rest. Irish guilt is powerful. He was right. People did drop coins in. Some smiled, some barely looked at me, just tossed in a couple of euro and hurried past. A few asked what the charity was for, and I repeated what he'd told me. Families behind on rent, food vouchers, emergency heating. It felt good, like I was actually helping someone instead of just scrolling on my phone in bed. Every so often he'd wander over from his side of the street. How you getting on? He'd ask, peering into the bucket. Jesus, you're showing me up. He'd balance the money between mine and his, tipping some notes from mine into his, saying it was just for counting later. He took photos of me too, smiling with the bucket, saying they were for the charity's social media. We'll get you famous yet, he joked. Star of the page. Around lunchtime, he bought us sandwiches from a corner shop, insisting on paying. I wouldn't dip into the buckets, he said, hand on his heart. Bad karma. This is just out of my own pocket. I believed him. After the break, he asked if I'd mind moving a bit further down. Loads of competition up here, he said, nodding at another charity stall. You might do better outside the Tesco near the bus stops. People feel generous when they've just bought their dinner. He walked me down, gave me a fresh bucket, and went back to the main spot. For the first 20 minutes, everything was the same. A few coins, a couple of notes, the usual fair play to ye comments. Then a man in a black jacket stopped. He squinted at the bucket, then at my badge. What charity did you say this was? He asked. Community Hearts Relief, I replied. We help families with rent and food costs. Do you? Yeah, he said slowly. Never heard of ye. I'm on this street 10 years. I know most of the local charities. I laughed nervously. We're small, I said. He, my friend, said they're trying to get more recognition. The man frowned. I know someone in the council that approves collections, he said. There's rules about who's allowed stand where. I'd be careful, love. He walked away before I could answer. My stomach twisted. I texted the guy. Some fella asking about permits and his mate in the council? He replied almost instantly. Don't worry, people are always nosy. I'll pop down now. I saw him a minute later, walking fast, smile gone. The drizzle had turned into proper rain, his hair plastered to his forehead. Right, he said, already grabbing the bucket from my hand. We'll relocate. These spots are a pain with permits. Don't want grief. He stacked my bucket onto another and motioned for me to follow. We turned the corner onto a quieter side street where his car was parked, a small gray hatchback. He popped the boot and started shoving the buckets inside. I heard coins clatter, some spilling out onto the wet pavement. Are we not going back? I asked. We've done grand for the day, he said without looking at me. We'll head off before the guards take an interest. You did brilliant, honestly. He slammed the boot shut. And that's when the patrol cars turned into the street. 2 of them. Lights on, sirens off, rolling in slow and deliberate. They stopped right behind his car, blocking it in. He went completely rigid. His hand, still on the boot, started to shake. Stay quiet, he muttered, barely audible. The officers got out, jackets zipped against the rain. Can you step away from the vehicle, sir? One of them called. He tried to smile. Is there a problem, Garda? He asked, voice suddenly too bright. We're just finishing up a charity collection. Which charity? The guard asked. Community Hearts Relief, he said smoothly. We're just a small. Right, the guard cut in. We're going to have a quick look in the boot, if you don't mind. He hesitated. Just for a second. It was enough. They had him cuffed against the side of the car before the boot was even fully open. Inside, stacked tall, were more yellow buckets. At least a dozen. Some with banners rolled up beside them. A box full of laminated badges, all with different names. Another box of printed banners with different charity titles. Street Food Friends, Housing Hope Fund, Family's First Relief. All the fonts matched. One officer asked for my name, gently steering me away. "Did you know him well?" he asked. "No," I said, voice wobbling. "We matched on Tinder." He said he ran a charity. The guard exhaled slowly through his nose, like he'd heard that exact sentence too many times. "Right," he said. "You're not in trouble, but we'll need a statement." Later, at the station, they told me what they knew. He'd been at this for months, turning up on Saturdays in different parts of the city, sometimes even other towns. New banner, same buckets. He printed fake logos online, changed the name every time so nobody could quite pin it down. The photos on his phone, the events he'd shown me, were cobbled together from real charities' social media. He was already outside the cafe when I got there, leaning against an old blue car with the windows rolled down and a cooler strapped into the back seat. "Hey," he said, straightening up when he saw me. "You ready? It's a nice day for it." He was taller than I expected, quiet, calm. We'd only been talking a few days, mostly about how overrated bars were and how people forgot there were actual trees beyond the ring road. This was his idea instead of drinks, a picnic somewhere proper, as he put it. I got in. The car smelled faintly of mud and something piney, like old air freshener and damp leaves. He pulled out smoothly, radio low, town easing away behind us. "Won't be long," he said. "About 20 minutes. You'll like it. No one ever goes there." The way he said it should have made me pause. It didn't. I watched houses thin out, replaced by fields, hedges, a line of trees in the distance. The sky was that washed-out gray-blue that looks harmless but hides the sun. He didn't talk much. When he did, it was about the land. "Used to come out here with my granddad," he said, one hand loose on the wheel. "Fishing. Camping. He always said the city makes people forget how quiet feels." He smiled a little when he talked about him. It made him seem softer, harmless, gentle. We turned onto a narrower road, tarmac giving way to packed dirt. The car bumped and jolted. He seemed to know exactly where he was going, no hesitation, no checking maps. Trees closed in on both sides, the air shifting cooler as we dipped under the canopy. Finally, he pulled up onto a rough verge and killed the engine. "Here," he said. "We walk from now." We followed a faint path through the trees, branches brushing our shoulders. Birds chattered somewhere above us, unseen. I could hear water, distant, a low, constant rush. He carried the cooler and a rolled-up blanket under one arm. When we stepped out into the clearing, it was beautiful. Stupidly so. A strip of flat grass dappled with light, trees circling like a wall, a shallow stream winding along one edge, catching the sky. There was no one else. No cars. No voices. "Wow," I said. "Okay. You win. This is nice." "Told you," he said quietly. "Way better than some noisy bar." He laid out the blanket near the stream, smoothing the corners with quick, precise movements. The cooler thudded softly onto the grass. He knelt, opened it, and started unpacking. I noticed that instantly. Both lids were off, one bottle already a little emptier than the other. "Which one's mine?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He paused. It was tiny, a fraction of a second where his hand hung between them. Then he picked up the fuller one and handed it over. "This one," he said. "I had a bit of that one earlier." He nodded at the other bottle. I took the juice and told myself I was being paranoid. People pre-open drinks all the time. I took a sip. It tasted normal. We ate. The conversation was easy in that slightly awkward first date way. He talked about working with animals, about hating office jobs, about preferring the company of things that couldn't lie. "Wildlife stuff? Pest control sometimes," he said. "You get to see the city from underneath. Drains, fields, edges of things. People don't realize how much crawls around just past their fences." He laughed, but there wasn't much humor in it. I lay back on my hands, stretching my legs, the blanket rough under my palms. The sound of the stream was soothing. A bird skimmed low over the water and disappeared into the trees. For a moment it was easy to forget we'd met through an app designed to fling strangers at each other. I shifted, trying to adjust the blanket beneath me. Something hard pressed into my palm. Not a stone, too flat, no give. I frowned and pushed my fingers under the fabric to straighten it. My hand brushed metal. Cold. Smooth. Long. I froze. Slowly, I lifted the edge of the blanket. The knife lay there like it had been waiting. A big kitchen knife, the kind you use to carve meat. The blade was streaked with something dark and dried, crusted along the edge. At first my brain tried to label it as rust. But rust doesn't smear. It doesn't flake like that. It doesn't look like something that once dripped. My mouth went dry. My heart started pounding so hard it blurred everything at the edges. He noticed my silence and turned his head. "What's up?" he asked. I couldn't speak. I just kept staring at the blade. He followed my gaze. His eyes landed on the knife. For a second, just 1 second, his entire face went blank. All expression wiped clean. Then the neutral smile slid back into place like a mask being put on. "Oh," he said. "Yeah, that. I must have dropped it from the bag, used it camping out here the other week." His tone was utterly flat. No embarrassment. No surprise. No "oh shit, sorry about that." Just a stated fact, as if we were talking about a forgotten fork. I didn't move. My hand still hovered over the blanket, fingers tingling. My pulse roared in my ears. The knife was close enough that if I shifted my foot, I could have kicked it away. But I couldn't bring myself to touch it again. "Relax," he said softly. "You look like you've seen a ghost." He reached forward, about to grab the handle. Somewhere far off, underneath the sound of the stream, I heard something else. A siren. Faint at first. Then another. Then another. Layered, drawing closer, cutting through the peaceful, calm little bubble we were sitting in. He froze, hand hovering over the knife. His head snapped up, eyes narrowing in the direction of the trees and the track we'd walked down. "Shit," he muttered. He pulled his hand back from the knife like it had burned him and started moving quickly now, stuffing the empty wrappers into the cooler, closing containers that were still open. "We should go," he said. "Sometimes they patrol around here. Rangers. They don't like people dumping stuff." He laughed once, too loud, too sharp. It died immediately. The sirens swelled, bouncing off the trees, disorientating. They sounded closer than they should have for the distance to the road. I could see flickers of light now, flashes of blue between the trunks as vehicles crept along the track above the clearing. My whole body went cold. He stood, grabbed the cooler with one hand, the corner of the blanket with the other, half ready to yank it up. The knife would have gone with it, but he hesitated, eyes locked on the approaching lights. For a heartbeat, we just stared at each other. Then he dropped the blanket and bolted. Not towards the cars. Away from them. Downhill, toward the stream, crashing through the undergrowth. The shout from the trees snapped me out of it. "Police! Stay where you are." 2 officers appeared at the top of the path, running down the muddy slope, boots sliding. I stumbled to my feet, hands instinctively raised. "He ran that way," I managed, voice shaking, pointing toward the water. They didn't even glance at me. 2 of them veered off, following the direction I'd pointed, crashing through the grass and reeds. I heard more shouting. Splashing. A curse. "Hands where I can see them," the officer nearest to me said sharply, eyes flicking past me to the blanket. I did as he said, fingers spread. My legs were trembling so badly I thought I'd fall. They caught him within seconds. I saw it in fragments, his body lunging for the stream, a spray of water, 2 officers slamming him down into the mud, his voice cracking as he yelled that he hadn't done anything, that he was just on a picnic, that it was a mistake. I matched with her late on a Friday night when I was half asleep, lying in bed and doom scrolling just to avoid going to sleep. She didn't look like most of the girls on there. No heavy filters, no nightclub toilets, no staged candid laughing with the cocktail shots. Short hair, messy fringe, oversized jacket, relaxed smile. A little artsy, but not in a try-hard way. One picture of her holding a big leafy plant, another sitting cross-legged on a sofa surrounded by cardboard boxes. We joked for a bit about terrible commuters, bad dates, and landlords from hell. She said she'd just moved into a small 1-bed near the park, and that it still didn't feel like home yet. We talked about how hard it was to find a decent flat, how viewings always made you feel like you were auditioning to exist. It wasn't deep, but it was easy. After a day or 2, she said, "I'm still unpacking, but I could use a break from cardboard and IKEA instructions. Coffee at the weekend." We picked Sunday afternoon. She suggested a cafe not far from her place, said if things went well we could walk back and I could admire the mess. When I got there she looked exactly like her photos. Same jacket, same messy hair, same lazy half-smile. In person she was confident without being loud, the kind of person who seemed comfortable in their own skin. She had this habit of glancing around every so often, scanning the room like she was checking exits or looking for someone she knew. I just assumed she was anxious. We talked for an hour over coffee about nothing and everything. Plants, neighbors, weird noises in old buildings, how flat hunting made you want to give up and move into a tent. She said, "My place is only a few streets away, if you want to see it. I finally built the sofa, and I need someone to validate my choice in cushions." She made it sound casual, harmless. I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" We walked through quiet residential streets, rows of flats with little front gardens and recycling bins out front. It was that time of day when everything's a bit muted. Not quite evening, but the light already going. She stopped outside a modern building, glass entrance, neat letterboxes. Not fancy, but definitely more expensive than mine. Instead of keys, she pulled out her phone, tapped through something, then punched a code into a keypad by the door. It beeped and unlocked. She grinned. "I love the keyless thing. Makes me feel like I live in a hotel." I didn't think anything of it. A lot of places have codes now. Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of cleaning products, that generic lemon chemical mix. We went up to the third floor. Carpet that had just enough where to show people lived there, but not enough to be gross. Outside her door, there was another keypad box. She glanced at her phone again, then quickly tapped in another code. The light turned green. The lock clicked. The flat was nice. Small but well put together. Lightwood floors, white walls, big sofa facing a TV, a few plants on the windowsill. It looked like something from a furniture catalog. Tidy, neutral, almost too perfect. "Sorry, it's a bit bare," she said, kicking off her shoes. "I only moved in 2 weeks ago. Still figuring out what to put on the walls. I own too many prints and not enough wall." I told her it looked great. And it did. Just in that way where you can't quite see the person who lives there yet. We sat on the sofa talking for a bit. She joked about being a real adult. Now she had a dishwasher and matching mugs. She went to the small kitchen area and grabbed a couple of cans from the fridge. When she opened it, I noticed how empty it was. A bottle of water, a small block of cheese, half a lemon, the 2 cans we were drinking. "Wow, gourmet," I said. She laughed. "I live on toast. I'll be better once I get an actual food shop in, promise." I shrugged it off. New place, busy made sense. I used the bathroom at one point. It was spotless. Towels folded perfectly on the rail, toothbrush in a cup, soap placed dead center of the sink. Nothing on the floor, no laundry basket, no clutter. No half-used shampoo bottles in the shower. Everything looked like it had been put there that morning. Back in the living room, I sat for a minute while she disappeared into the bedroom to grab my charger. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened one of the drawers in the TV unit, just expecting cables or remotes. It was completely empty. The next one, empty too. No random junk, no DVD, nothing. It was like the drawers had never been used. I shut them quickly, feeling weird for even looking. She came back, dropped her charger on the table, and flopped down beside me like nothing was strange. We watched something on Netflix and kept talking. She was funny, relaxed, totally normal. But the longer I sat there, the more the little details nagged at me. No post on the counter. No keys on a hook. No shoes by the door except the ones she'd just taken off. The coffee table had a candle on it that had clearly never been lit. "Do you like the area?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah," she said. "It's quiet. I can work from home without wanting to throw myself out the window. The park's nice too." She stopped mid-sentence. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. At first I thought she meant something outside. Then I heard it too. Keys. Rattling in the lock. She went completely rigid. Her eyes snapped to the door. For a second, I thought maybe it was a roommate she'd forgotten to mention. She grabbed her phone so tightly her knuckles went white. "Don't say anything," she whispered. The door opened. A man stepped inside, juggling a set of keys and a bag of groceries. He stopped dead when he saw us sitting on the sofa. His face moved through confusion into something sharper. "Who the hell are you?" he asked. I stood up, hands half raised. I thought this was her place." I turned to gesture at her, and she was already moving. She shot past him like a bolt, mumbling something that sounded like sorry, or maybe a swear, squeezed past his shoulder and bolted into the hallway. "Hey!" he shouted, spinning around. The door slammed. He stared after her, chest heaving, then swung back to me. "Explain." "Now." She said it was her flat," I stammered. "We met on Tinder." She said she'd just moved in. She used her phone to open the doors, I thought. Before he could respond, 2 uniformed officers appeared in the doorway. "Sir," one called to him. You all right? Yeah, he said, still breathing hard. She ran. She was here again. The officers stepped inside, eyes flicking between me and the room. Again, one of them asked. He nodded, dropping the grocery bag onto the floor. This is my place. My Airbnb. I got a call from the neighbors saying the lights were on all week. I called you lot before I came up. They asked me to step outside while they checked the flat. I stood in the hallway, heart thudding, listening to the muffled sound of drawers opening, cupboards being checked. The neighbor from across the hall peeked out, eyes wide. She was here last month too, the neighbor whispered. Different clothes, different hair. I thought she was the owner. I met Jonas on a Tuesday. It was one of those boring, cloudy afternoons where everything feels a little too quiet. I'd been swiping through a dating app out of habit, not hope. Just trying to kill time on my lunch break. Then his profile popped up. No shirtless pics. No fishing photos. No gym stats. Just one picture. Him in a bookstore, smiling softly, holding a book I loved. The bio read, looking for someone to build a quiet future with. Bonus points if you believe in fate. It felt intentional. So I swiped right. He messaged instantly. We met for coffee that evening. I almost canceled twice. But when I walked into the little cafe, he stood to greet me like I was someone he'd been waiting years to meet. Hi, he said, and his smile didn't reach his eyes. They shimmered, not with charm, but with certainty. You look like a memory I haven't had yet. That should have been a red flag. Instead, I smiled. The first date lasted 4 hours. We talked about everything. Our favorite childhood books, dreams we didn't tell anyone, the way it feels to be lonely even in a crowd. He listened like he was memorizing me, repeating little things I said back to me later like gifts. You said your grandma made you peppermint tea when you were sick. That's why you drink it now, isn't it? Yes, I said, surprised. I didn't think I said that out loud. You did, he smiled. I pay attention. That should have been the second red flag. Instead, I felt seen. By the end of the second day, he'd sent flowers to my apartment. Not just a bouquet, a whole arrangement of peonies and eucalyptus in a ceramic vase with a handwritten card. You're the first calm I've felt in years. Oh gee. It was beautiful. Romantic. Suffocating. The third day was when everything cracked. He invited me to the lake. Said he wanted to show me the place he used to go to as a kid. It was secluded, surrounded by tall reeds and crooked trees. We sat by the water and ate sandwiches he packed. You know, he said between bites, I've never believed in taking it slow. I laughed. I've noticed. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small box. Not a ring box. A velvet pouch. Inside was a delicate silver necklace. It had a little charm, the infinity symbol twisted into a knot. I saw this and thought of you. Jonas, it's been 3 days. I know. Isn't that wild? He clasped the necklace around my neck without waiting for permission. That night, I told him I needed to slow down. He didn't get angry. He just went quiet. The silence wasn't sad, it was sharp. You're scared, he said finally. That's okay. You've been let down before. I'm not like them. I just don't know you yet. You will. And when you do, you'll realize we're the same. The next day, I didn't hear from him. It was a relief, until around 6 p.m., when I got a message from a friend. Are you at the park? What's going on? I had no idea what she meant. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message. A picture. Jonas. Standing in the middle of the local public garden. Holding a bouquet. In front of a crowd. Next text. Girl, is he proposing to you right now? I got there in 10 minutes, heart pounding. The park was buzzing. Dozens of strangers. Some filming. Some confused. And there was Jonas, standing beneath a white arch someone had clearly helped him set up. Rose petals on the grass. A Bluetooth speaker playing a violin cover of Can't Help Falling in Love. He spotted me. Smiled. Then dropped to one knee. 3 days, he said loudly. 3 days was all it took for me to know. You're it. You're my peace. My home. My future. He opened a box. A ring. A real one. The crowd gasped. My hands were shaking. I didn't say yes. I didn't say anything. I turned and walked away. He didn't follow. That night, he sent me a message. I forgive you. Fear makes people run. But we both know what this is. I blocked him. 2 days later, my apartment door had a note taped to it. 3 days was enough for me. It will be enough for you too. No signature. Just that same infinity charm, now broken in half, taped beside it. I moved a week later. Got a new phone number. deleted the app. But sometimes I still see him. At the grocery store. Outside my gym. Never close. Just there. Watching. Waiting. And once, I found a rose under my windshield wiper. Tied with a ribbon. No note. Just a tag that said, "For would have been too late." Worst date? The one where I ignored basic internet safety protocol 1. The coffee date. So long story. I'm in college on OKC, I get a massage from this guy, and it turns out that we knew each other from high school. He'd been a senior when I was a sophomore, and we'd had a Photoshop class together. So yeah, I remembered him too. And he's all, "I've had a crush on you for such a long time. It's so cool that I found you again." So that's flattering. And he asks if I like to play video games, and I'm like, heck yeah, so he invites me back to his place for video games. Thunder cracks in the background. It was pissing down rain, so he offered to come get me in his car off campus. So I'm like, sure, why not? And he comes and picks me up in this flashy as fuck red two-seater. And he's every neckbeard stereotype you can imagine. Just a giant guy, both fat and tall, sparse beard all over his chins. I think he kissed my knuckles at some point. Well, I know I'm not exactly stunning either, so I'm like, alright, we're just going to play some video games, it'll be cool. On the way back to his place, he calls his old Subaru, which I vaguely remembered a pussy wagon, and talked about how he had traded up for the flashy red car we were in. This is a turn-off to me because really? If you have a car that runs, and could potentially drive a bunch of dogs around, you do not need a flashier car with no cargo or friend space. We're about a half-mile from campus in the nice apartments there, and he brings me up to his studio. He's all, "You want to get high?" Takes me to his bathroom and shows me the most complicated fancy beaker-style bong I had seen up to that date. He bragged that it's like $1,000 top-of-the-line bong. Again with the unimpressive money spending. I had like half a tokay, and he finishes the bowl. We kiss for a bit, and I'm like, alright, I can do kissing. But then he wants to take a shower with me, so I doge out into the room and ask about video games. Weren't we going to play video games? So he follows me, but he's obviously too stoned for Mario Golf, so he asks me to pick a movie, and I choose Life of Brian, because it's a good movie I hadn't seen in a while. So we chill on the couch, and he proceeds to try and basically steal second base, and imply that, hey, he lives in a studio, and his bed is right there. I mean, we could go over there and be comfortable. I played dumb, but then we couldn't see the movie, I said, and he huffed, and went back to tit squeezing. The groping would have been almost okay, but he for whatever reason decided that instead of the classic up and under, to instead go down the neck of my t-shirt. So he's kinda choking me in addition to pinching my nipple in the mistaken impression that this is turning me on. So I tell him to stop, and he gets all huffy. But he stops, so we go back to watching the movie. And then he tries it again, down the neck of the shirt and everything. This happens a couple of times. So then I stand up. I say something like, "I think I should home now." As soon as I get up, he bursts into these blubbery, awful tears, and he's trying to tell me something about how it's been so long, and could I just stay? It's raining, he'd totally drive me. And did I have about 350? So about that time I realized he was about 500 feet tall, and from the Paleolithic era. So I smile weakly, tell him, "I've had a lovely time, but I really must get going." Cue more and stronger crying, exunt pencil ears. I walked home in the rain, called my sister as I did so in case he followed me, and took what amounts to basically a rape shower to wash the feel of his hands off me. I've been thinking about it today because I just got back last night from a second date with a guy who seemed like he was mad at me and decided against a third date for my not being much of a risk taker, and I assume it's because I didn't want to go back to his apartment after our first date. If you're reading this, Drew, and I know you're a Redditor, then now you know why I'm a little wary of being fucking date raped. The only thing that saved me in the above story is that he got himself too high to restrain me effectively. Had he wanted to, he could have wrecked me. Also, despite my high and freaky sex drive, I don't bang people I've known less than 24 hours. Matched with a gorgeous woman, and we got to chatting straight away. We had great convo and no trouble genuinely making each other laugh. She was very responsive and seemed super interested, so was I. So unsurprisingly, plans for a date quickly ensued. So far so good. This was just after the last round of lockdowns had ended where I live. You needed to book just about everywhere, and places were being strict about charging for canceled bookings and allotting 2-hour table time limits. Took the risk and booked for drinks. I show up on time, waiter takes me to the table, I order a drink and chill thinking she's going to be a little late based on the last TXT exchange. 15 minutes and I get a text saying she's struggling to find parking. Not a problem, no stress, see you when you get here, I respond. 15 minutes later, the follow-up, I'm just around the corner, TXT lands. At this stage I've finished the drink I ordered, and the waiter keeps coming round, reminding me I've got limited time on the booking, and asking if I want another drink or to order food. I turn down the drink, not wanting to be half-cut, when slash if my date shows, and don't order food either. Waiter looks very annoyed. I'm thinking about settling the bill and getting on my merry way. 15 minutes later, a total of 45 minutes late, date finally shows. I'm annoyed, but she walks in looking smoking hot, looking even better than her very attractive pics, and apologizes profusely, which lowers the irritation to a simmer that is quickly forgotten. She did make a remark about how she had to take time to get pretty for me. That kinda irked me, but again, smoking hot, and besides that quip actually quite charming, so I let it slide. My date orders a cocktail, I get a beer, and she downs the thing before I've gotten a quarter of the way through my beer, and immediately orders another one and slams that one down before I can finish my beer. Remember, she drove to this date. Waiter does his time, keep thing looking even more annoyed, and we collectively realize not enough time to eat, so I settle the bill and my date, and I decide to go elsewhere. At this point, I'm pretty much sober, but I can see slam him down cocktail Sue is in no state to drive. Turns out she parked her car about a block away, which begs the question why it took her so long to get there if she was parked around the CNR. But Waitev's issue now is she can't drive and will 100% get a ticket if she leaves her car where it is. I'm a little amused at her plight, but I offer a solution. Find a long-term park for the car, then it won't an issue for the evening. She agrees this is sensible, but she's definitely over the limit, so I drive her car into an overnight-type parking lot with a reasonable weekend rate and think crisis averted. Little did I know what would follow. We kick on to a few other spots around town, and by this point the city is heaving, and we're progressively both getting drunker and drunker, but having an absolute blast. End up at club-type spot dancing, getting handsy and lip-locking with each other. Never had a first date quite so raucous, but this woman is hilarious and good times are being had by all. Then things suddenly turn. She takes a phone call, her face visibly darkens, and she's absolutely seething. Apparently it's someone she did a favor for that turned on her, and she says, I can be the sweetest, kindest person in the world, but if you cross me I'll destroy you, flushed face. We're both quite drunk, but I can see this line of talk ain't leading to anything good, so I try to change the subject to no avail. She's ranting and getting more and more worked up. People start to stare and I hold her hand and gently try to calm her down. She flips the script and yells, don't fucking touch me. Mind you, we'd been a hell of a lot more intimate already by then than hand holding, so I'm completely thrown. Time freezes as literally everyone turns to look at what must look like an abusive spouse me. Thankfully she spots the look of shock/horror on my face, quickly grabs my hand, apologizes, and tries to snuggle into me. I'm deafened by the alarm bells ringing in my head, and all I can think about is how to pull the pin on this date ASAP. I say I'm leaving, get up, walk out, she chases after me. She's now beside herself, emotional, and I say we're clearly both way too drunk and we should end the date. I offer to pay for her Uber home, and she mutters something about getting a hotel room for the night, as she needs her car first thing in the morn. I tell her that that's a good idea, but that I won't be joining her in the hotel room. I'm going home, thanks very much. She then flies into a rage and demands I help her get her car from parking garage because she's too drunk to do it. I'm like, lady, I'm just as drunk as you. No goddamn way I'm getting behind the wheel of anything right now. Besides, you don't need your car if you Uber home or get a hotel room. She calls me every name in the book, and I walk away, call an Uber, go home, laughing to myself about my date with Satan's little helper. I receive a barrage of abusive TXTs and attempts at emotional blackmail. How can you just leave me like this, which I ignore. Get home, turn my phone off, and crash. Next morning I wake up to a video message from her. She went and got her car and drove it home, y'all. The recording was her gunning it down the highway while filming and taunting me. Sweet baby Jesus, what is wrong with you? Was all I could reply. About 6 hours later she's blowing up my phone, apologizing, saying how she's embarrassed and ashamed, got too drunk, and isn't normally like this. I tell her she's playing with fire with what she did, and that she could have in a moment destroyed her life or worse, someone else's, with her craziness. She agrees. I stop talking to her. Really hope she got help, but yeah, this is the craziest date I've ever been on. I have one that's more weird than it was terrible. It's a doozy. When I was 19, I was working at a shop in a less traveled part of downtown. It was winter time, and my hometown is dead in the winter, so there was very little foot traffic. I was working alone on a Saturday night. A cute backpacker guy came into the shop. At the time, I considered myself to have hippie leanings, so he was just my type. Yeah, I had one long skirt and wore jewelry I bought from street vendors. That's as far as that went. Totally pretentious and naive. We got to chatting, and he said he'd just gotten into town and was looking for suggestions on fun things to do. I directed him to the nearest nightclubs on the next block. He left, and I went about my business. He came back some time later to tell me that the clubs weren't really his scene, and invited me to hang out with him at his grandparents' place, which was on a lakefront property. I agreed to it like an idiot, all excited and flattered that this hot scruffy guy had asked me out, thinking it was romantic or some shit. Well, I go there after I close the shop down at 10 p.m. I get to the address he had given me, and it's a nice enough place, but there are no grandparents to be seen. I wondered briefly if he had just broken into some random property, but he seemed familiar with a few key things. I stayed. He made me craft dinner, which was pretty cool. Then we sat inside and he began talking about all the occult/Illuminati symbols on the American dollar bill, that everything in the US is a giant conspiracy run by them, etc., etc. At this point, I was feeling uncomfortable. He told me about some experience he had in Tofino, a small, hippie-ish town on Vancouver Island, where he was on the beach and apparently saw hippies coming out of the forest who drew a big circle in the sand that they danced around and chanted in by moon/candlelight. Honestly, this one could have been true. He told me about some spooky supernatural experiences he had in Stanley Park in Vancouver that apparently cemented his belief in ghosts. Then, the kicker, he told me he could see auras. So far, all of this could be just some hippie/free spirit guy talking about his beliefs, yes? But he said that he believed that he was descended from the wizard Merlin since Merlin had a gray aura, and so did he. He believed he was a wizard and had some kind of powers, and that's why all these weird things kept happening to him. I had to go. I told him I had to work early. Then I get outside, and it was the first snowstorm of the year. Hooray! I could barely get my car up the driveway, but finally did. No way was I going back inside or considering staying the night. At the time, I thought he was weird, but was more worried about driving in the snow or waking up my parents after being out so late. He texted me once or twice after that, but I kept telling him I was busy. I should have known better. Way better. That was so dangerous. Nobody knew where I was, so I was extremely lucky that he was harmless. When I tell the story to friends, they laugh about my date with a wizard, but I shudder to think of how dumb I was. It's more about that than about some kooky dude. My first mistake? Going out with my intern. Rookie move, I know. But in my defense, it started off as one of those situations that didn't feel like a big deal at the time. We'd been working together for a couple of months, and she was smart, funny, and had this laid-back vibe that made her easy to be around. We'd grab lunch sometimes or chat about music while waiting for meetings to start, and I figured asking her to join me at a show wasn't crossing any lines. It was just two co-workers hanging out, right? Wrong. The night started off harmless enough. We met at this little dive bar near the venue, had a couple of beers, and swapped stories about terrible bosses and awkward office moments. She told me about the time she accidentally replied all to an email chain, complaining about someone who was, in fact, on the email chain. I told her about the time I tripped over a power cord during a presentation and took the projector down with me. We laughed, and honestly it felt good, easy, like we'd been friends for years instead of just a few months. By the time we got to the venue, the drinks were hitting just right. The band was loud, the crowd was rowdy, and we ended up standing way too close to each other, the kind of close where shoulders brush and no one moves away. Somewhere between the second and third song, she leaned in and said, "You're not as uptight as I thought you'd be." I laughed, but inside I was doing that mental calculation. The one where you weigh whether or not leaning in a little closer is a terrible idea. Spoiler alert, it was. But a couple more beers later, neither of us cared. After the show, we wandered back to her place. It was one of those spur-of-the-moment decisions that felt completely reasonable at the time. She lived nearby, and neither of us wanted to call it a night yet. We ended up in her living room, flipping through records and taking turns picking songs until one of us made the first move. I honestly don't remember who it was, probably her, but maybe me. All I know is that 1 minute we were talking, and the next we were making out like teenagers who'd just snuck out after curfew. We stumbled into her bedroom, shedding clothes along the way, and well, You get the idea. Everything seemed fine, great, even, until it wasn't. Afterward, we were lying there catching our breath when she reached over, grabbed a joint from her nightstand, and lit it. Now, I'm not opposed to a little post-hookup relaxation, but the second she took that first hit, I could tell something was off. Her face changed, eyes darting, jaw tightening, and then she sat straight up in bed like she'd just remembered something important. "I think I'm too high," she said, her voice already wavering. I sat up too, trying to gauge whether this was regular high or emergency high. "You okay?" I asked. "Nope," she said, already climbing out of bed and reaching for her robe. "I need a minute." And with that, she bolted to the bathroom, shutting the door so hard the frame rattled. At first, I figured she just needed to splash some water on her face or talk herself down in the mirror. I waited a few minutes, then a few more. After about 15 minutes, I knocked softly and asked if she was all right. "I'm fine," she called back, but her voice sounded anything but fine. So I waited some more, and waited, and waited. By the time we hit the 1-hour mark, I was starting to wonder if she'd climbed out the bathroom window to escape. I knocked again, this time a little louder. "You sure you're okay?" There was a long pause, and then she finally said, "I think you need to go." I blinked at the door, trying to process what I'd just heard. "Wait, what?" "I'm serious," she said, her voice muffled. "You should go." And that was it. No explanation, no further discussion. Just a disembodied voice telling me to leave. So I did. I gathered my clothes, got dressed in awkward silence, and let myself out of her apartment, trying not to trip over my own feet on the way. I stood outside for a second, wondering if I should text her to make sure she wasn't still locked in the bathroom, but ultimately decided against it. The next morning, I woke up with a splitting headache and a sinking feeling in my stomach. I grabbed my phone to check for any texts from her, maybe an apology or even just an explanation, but there was nothing. And then Monday rolled around. Walking into the office felt like stepping into a minefield. She was already at her desk when I arrived, typing furiously and avoiding eye contact like it was her full-time job. I tried to play it cool, said a casual hey as I passed by, but all I got in return was a quick nod and a morning. For the rest of the day, we both acted like nothing had happened. No one else in the office seemed to suspect anything, but I felt like every interaction with her was loaded with unspoken awkwardness. It didn't help that every time I saw her, all I could think about was that locked bathroom door and the muffled voice telling me to leave. Over the next few weeks, things slowly settled back into something resembling normal, but there was always this underlying tension that never quite went away. I have a few of my favorite OkCupid horror stories to share with you. 1. A girl messaged me about 6 months ago. She had a decent profile, mentioning going to film school in NYC, along with a love for comics. I was intrigued. Beyond that, she was really cute and 5 feet 7 inches, which was perfect for a 6 feet 4 inches man such as myself. After a few messages back and forth, I asked her out on a date in which she mentioned she was nervous about meeting in person. The fears were completely reasonable. She had a friend who had a terrible experience with online dating, taking to a guy who ended up being a 40-year-old man that sent fake pictures. I agreed that we can text for a few weeks until she was comfortable. Once she became comfortable, she asked to meet at a public place, just in case I was not who my profile said I was. When we met, she was easily 40 pounds heavier than her pictures, about 3 to 4 inches shorter, and that was only the beginning of the lies. She was not currently going to film school, but instead planned on going once she finished community college. Furthermore, at 23 she had been in community college since she was 18, and it wasn't because she was working during this time to afford it. She was currently living with her parents, and was unable to drive to the date. Her parents had to drive her. After the date, she continued to message me for 2 months, and is the reason I now only give out a Google Voice number to my dates, understandably. There is nothing wrong with going back to school, or even living with your parents during a hard time. This, however, was not the case. She was neither looking for work, nor had immediate plans to move on with her life. 2.1 of my dates knew they had Scrabble at this bar, and decided to play board games there. She was so into the game, that she had not interest in talking and getting to know each other, just play Scrabble. The game went on forever, and I seriously just wanted to go home by the end of the night. Sure, Scrabble may be fun for some people, but not on a first date at Prohibition Bar, especially when you refuse to talk between turns. Afterwards, she talked about how she cuts her own hair, her daddy issues, and how she sees a psychiatrist for image issues. 3. I am at a wine bar with a date. We are having a good conversation, and the date was going decently. Not bad, not great. After a drink, she starts slurring her speech a bit, and then says, "Can I ask you a serious question? Are you gay?" After explaining that I am not even bisexual, she then say, "Well, I am not that into metrosexual men." This girl proceeded to message me 5 more times on OKC to see if we can hang out as friends. 4. Yenenendi, my favorite. My first date on OKC got drunk and vomited at a bar. When I offered to walk her home, she refused, saying she does not want some stranger from the internet knowing where she lives. I even offered to walk her a few blocks from her place, in which she still refused. I am not going to leave some drunk girl, no matter how obnoxious, stranded in the middle of downtown SJ, so I just walk around town with her for 3 hours. During that time, she talked about her pet rats and her scoliosis. After she sobered up, I let her drive home, in which she then texted me the next day to say I did not feel a romantic connection. The 3 worst first dates I've ever had were blind dates set up by a friend of mine. In hindsight, I think she was trying to make me feel better after a brutal breakup, but they only became funny after the fact. My favorite was the yummy margarita guy. We exchanged photos and wrote emails, and he seemed really great. Okay, so maybe the photo was like a 100 by 100 thumbnail cropped of just his face. And well, he did mention going out for margaritas like 3 times in one email exchange. But still, I wanted to get out for the day. We planned on walking the spring street fair that was happening, where the local restaurants and breweries show off their food and drinks. Awesome. I was going to eat good food and drink enough to make spending all the money on the good food okay. I was about 2 minutes away when I texted him and told him I was trying to find a parking spot. He told me he found one and was going to stand in it until I got there. Yes. I pull up to where he told me to meet him. I see a stout, chubby, balding white guy wearing the most ill-fitting clothes standing in a parking spot. Oh God, my date must have left and someone else snagged the spot. Oh fuck, he's waving at me. Why is he standing like that? I pull up and roll my windows down. I take a good look, as best as I can with the sun bouncing off his shiny forehead, and muster my best hey. I finally park, get out of my car, and we did the awkward handshake or hug dance. He told me I looked even more exotic in person, and he's glad we both look like our photos. Haha, no. You lied to me with your pictures, sir. You lied. We start walking in the direction of the street fair, and that's when I noticed he's wearing the most detailed FUBU jeans ever. Stitched designs on the pockets, up and down the legs, and wait, who the fuck is still wearing FUBU in 2009? Then I notice his oversized FUBU striped polo and the giant sweat patch on his lower back. In my gaze, I could see movement being made out of the corner of my eyes, and it turns out he has a giant paper towel roll with him, and he's wiping the sweat from his forehead and neck. I mean, yes, sure, it was hot as fuck that day, but the amount of sweat that was coming off on those towels could end the California drought. I made a decision right there to just continue the date. I drove all the way down here, and I've always wanted to try the food. Apparently, he had other plans. As we were wandering around, he kept asking out loud, "Where are all the yummy margaritas at? I see all this brouhaha beer, but no margaritas." He wouldn't stop long enough for me to grab food, and would complain loudly if a vendor was serving a fucking margarita. To shut him up, I found a little Mexican bar about 3 blocks from the fair that served margaritas. We go in, we sit down at the bar, and he happily orders a strawberry margarita and proceeds to baby the fuck out of that drink. I order a Guinness and proceed to down it. Okay, this is the time to escape. He's got his margarita, but he won't shut the fuck up about how good it is. What do? What can I say? I interrupt his margarita monologue to tell him my dog needed to take a shit and that I needed to get home to walk him. He stops to look at me and asks if he could finish his margarita before we head out. Oh God, he thinks this is a group thing. Abort. Abort. I slapped my cash on the bar and told him it couldn't wait. My dog needed to shit, and needed to shit badly. I ran out of there as quick as I could, leaving him his drink and his paper towel roll. Later that night, I get an email from him telling me that he had a great time, he hopes my dog is okay, and that he made reservations at a nice seafood place that served the most amazing margaritas ever.